Greetings everyone and welcome back to 365 Days of Prog. Today we're going to be reviewing in Oculis Meis by the band Traumhaus.
Hi, my name's Naomi. I'm an avid progressive rock fan, but I'm a long ways from knowing all the prog albums out there. But this year, I'm gonna give it a try. This is 365 Days of Prog.
So this neat little progressive metal album has a lot to like about it and a lot to not like about it, but we're gonna talk about that in just a second because here are some of my favorite bits from this album. So as I said, this is an Oculis Meis by the band Traumhaus. They are from Germany and this is one of the more newer releases we have on this list, coming out in a mere 2 years ago in 2020. Now Traumhaus is one of those bands that found their way on this list not because I received a recommendation about them, but rather because I'm gonna see them live in July and I wanted to get to know at least some of their music, so I chose this album as my, pick because I saw it was their most popular one. And this is why we're listening to it today. Now with that being said, I am telling you this because as it seems by now we've listened to a bunch of albums and bands that I listened to not because I was recommended them, but because I'm gonna see them in July, and mostly I found that most of these bands were pretty okay, not amazing in any way, and this album kind of falls under that category as well. I find it to be good but not over the top and interesting in any unique way. Now the title of this album is In Oculis Meis, which translated from Latin means in my eyes, but besides that being in Latin, this entire album is actually in German, from the names of the songs to the singing itself. But presumably in an act of accessibility, the band also released alongside this album an English version of this album which has the entire songs in English and one-to-one basically on the melody and everything, but the lyrics they're different. I decided to go with the original and listen to the German release of this, and honestly I guess it was pretty fine. Now I actually know a bit of German myself, but when it comes to singing and actual songs, it's really hard for me to decipher what they're actually saying, and I could only catch glimpses of words here and there, and maybe from context I could understand what they were talking about, but honestly the only thing I really understood completely was the song titles, which I am going to translate throughout this video. So as for my personal opinion about this album, I will say this: I think that this album is definitely progressive, but it does take a few shortcuts in order to get there. And what I mean by that is that this album doesn't really achieve the progressiveness status because of intricate playing, complex compositions and whatever that means, but rather by having one pretty consistent rhythm and featuring a ton of solos by the various instruments on it. And these said solos, they're amazing, they're really good, everyone can do a great part, mainly the keyboards and the guitar, and those solos would be welcome in most progressive albums, but to me I found that this album kinda only relied on those solos to be progressive, and that's kind of a bummer. I do believe that the closest we actually get to a real progressive song is with a track called Verstehen und Bewahren, which translates to understand and preserve, and even more in my personal favorite track from this album being the opener Der Erwachen, which translates to the awakening. This track in particular really opens up this album in a magnificent way, which I really liked. It has these piano arpeggios going in and out, and then it kind of swells into the metal vibe and feeling that this album has, and it really brings you into what's about to come. And to me at least, it really seems like Traumhaus know what what prog is, but were unable to really capture the essence of it, thus resulting in a progressive album which really is on the verge of being normal metal rather than progressive metal. So yeah, this isn't a bad album per se, but I don't see myself coming to it, willingly anytime soon, but I know that I will enjoy listening to the songs from this album played live in Germany in July. Ah yes, Traumhaus, the band that really doesn't seem to know how to take a band photo. I'm not gonna show any examples, but I looked them up on Google and oh my god, it's pretty funny, I must say. But no, that's not what we're gonna talk about right now. So this cover is pretty fine in my opinion. I think the thing I like about it the most is the fact that it doesn't fall under any, pre-existing conceptual ideas for metal covers. So it doesn't feature a very, grotesque image or a very, macabre image on the front, and it doesn't also feature, ravens and smoke and a girl and, the usual things. I think that the image of the eye is pretty, it's kind of striking. It's not over the top, but what I do think about this cover that could have made it a whole lot better is if they just ditched the rectangle, the line, they ditched the text altogether, and they just left us with the image of the eye as a whole. It really reminded me of the cover for Tool's 10,000 Days. There's like two versions of that cover. You have the version which has the text on it, and you have the version which doesn't have, and the version without the text is definitely the better one. And yeah, I do get the need for bands to have the name of their band and the album on it because you want it to be memorable and people to know who you are, but honestly, as I see it, there's a lot more intrigue if you don't even get those details when you look at the cover. I would say that I still much prefer the lighter covers when it comes to it. I think they're more memorable and they're more accessible to most people, thus this cover doesn't really go on my bright side, and I guess that's fine, but overall it's a pretty neat cover and I'm gonna give it that. So when it comes to the rating of this album, this one kind of feels like a no-brainer. I think it receives a 7 out of 10. Now, before I actually send you off to the end of this video, I must say that while researching about this band, I looked them up on YouTube and I actually found a video of them remastering this album, and I don't know what goes on in that video. It was released in 2020, but the editing and filming of it looks like it was made in 2008. I don't know how they managed to capture that, style of video, but I guess they kind of tried because I have no idea how you can do that. But yeah, that's about it guys. I hope that you enjoyed this video and stay tuned for tomorrow because we're going to be listening to Albino Slug by Buckethead. I'm really looking forward to tomorrow's episode, but before we finish this off, I want to thank my lovely supporters on Patreon. So thank you so much to Brian and Clay Walnum, you guys are the best, and if you want to support me over on Patreon, you can find the links down in the description or in my about page. But that's about it guys, have a wonderful day and I'll catch you all tomorrow. Bye guys.